Good evening, friends, and welcome to another late night edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. But it's now DutyRon and Melanie Little tonight. I am a retired New York City police detective, and you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective or a lawyer's perspective, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and Melanie and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Tonight, we are going to talk to you about a big victory for the state of New Hampshire, for the prosecutor and everybody involved in this case. Adam Montgomery was found guilty of all charges as it relates to his weapons possession as a career criminal. That was a huge win for the state of New Hampshire. It's a huge win for Harmony Montgomery. You know, he is the father who stands accused of murdering. His trial is coming in November. His daughter, Harmony Montgomery, who would have been 9 years old yesterday, was her birthday. We have a lot to get into, Melanie, but before we get into this whole thing, how are you doing tonight? We got a doozy here.
I am really fired up about this case, Ron. That's how I'm doing about today. I'm really fired up about this case. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I get a little passionate about it, because this whole case just breaks my heart. And if you're not familiar with it, buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. I got my finger on the bleep button in case we have to get a little crazy here tonight. But you know, this is something that we speak quite a bit about over the course of time in the true crime genre. It seems like this is happening on a regular basis. And when you and I spoke today on text message, you're like, this is happening all too often. And this could be happening, obviously, as we speak right now with another young, vulnerable child. You know, Harmony was 5 years old or younger when all of this happened. And arguably, this happened from her, from the very beginning. While she was in her mother's womb, she had an uphill battle to fight between the drugs, the alcohol, and you know, lack of parenting. And I hate to say it because people kind of get mad about that, but you know, it's easy to point the finger at the you know, feds, the state, at the people who are in charge of keeping our children safe. But it really starts, and Melanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it starts with the parents, you know. And if you give your child you know, a hard uphill battle to fight from the get-go, it's difficult at best to keep them safe.
Yeah, it starts with the parents. And look, we're seeing a lot of this, and we're seeing so many children left. What happened to No Child Left Behind? We are seeing so many children left behind by the system, by their parents, by the people who are charged to take care of them, by foster parents. We saw this in the West case. We are seeing this all too often, and something needs to change.
Yeah,
it's horrifying what's happening, and this case is an example of that, and just another example of that.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, Melanie, it's again, it's something that can't be solved overnight. But at the end of the day, we cover these cases. They're difficult to speak about. If you suffer from any type of PTSD or any type of trauma where it would be difficult to listen, we're going to be speaking tonight in this hour live stream about some real sensitive things, about some violence, and about, you know, horrific acts that were perpetrated allegedly onto a child. Yeah, Harmony Montgomery. Yeah, Harmony Montgomery, Melanie, again, 5 years old when she was reported missing. She was missing potentially for a good 18 months or more before the police or anyone got involved. And, you know, for those of you who don't know this case, Harmony Montgomery, again, allegedly murdered at the hands of her father. We're going to talk when we get into this about how she was beaten to death by her own flesh and blood, by her father, and discarded in an unknown fashion at this time. We do not know what happened to Harmony.
And Fuzzy Docs, you know, they have not found the remains of poor Harmony yet, but
yeah,
he's still being charged with her murder, and that trial is scheduled to start in the beginning of November. The trial that ended today were weapons charges, which we're going to go through.
So let's let the audience listen to the verdicts as they were read live. Adam Montgomery, 31 at the time of this incident, and now, a couple of years later in his 30s. Adam Montgomery had over 20 arrests in and out of the criminal justice system from juvenile, from a young age, going straight his whole entire life. It's well documented. He shot somebody in the face during a drug deal.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't kill the person, but I saw an interview with the victim in this horrific shooting. He's a violent person. Actually has a teardrop tattoo. And for those of you who don't know what a teardrop tattoo signifies, it's commonly tattooed on bad guys when they've killed somebody. So Adam Montgomery has a visible teardrop tattoo. It's not always a guarantee that is the case. Some of them do it just to make themselves appear to be tough, but 9 times out of 10, someone who gets a teardrop tattoo, that's what it signifies. So I want to just say hello to everybody in the chat before we get into this, because we're going to get it. This is going to take a lot of cramming to get this in an hour, and I don't think we're going to be able to do it. So we may have a part 2 to this.
Yeah. There's a lot here, and we didn't even get into the drugs. I mean, he shot this guy in the face over a heroin deal, shot him through the chin. The bullet came out through his temple. How he survived, I have no idea. But we're not just talking about a career criminal here, a career felon who was committing crime since he was 16 years old in Manchester, New Hampshire, which is where all of this happened. But also a substance abuser, long-term drug user. I mean, the trial, everybody who testified in this trial was a heroin, crack, or meth addict.
Yeah.
It was amazing to me how rampant the drug use was in this community.
And they bounced back and forth from Massachusetts to New Hampshire because the border was it's close. It's a short travel. So Adam Montgomery had his drug and criminal empire and his connections in both states.
Right.
But the real kicker here is that when Adam Montgomery was granted custody, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I have to say this for the people who are listening, when this child was taken away from her mother at the age of 4. She was born in 2018. 2014. Yeah. And in 2018, she was taken away from her biological mother, who is Crystal Sori.
For the third time.
Time. And she was put into the foster care system for a short period of time, about a year. And then Massachusetts, the courts in Massachusetts made the ridiculous decision, without doing a background check and a home check and all the things that DCYF is supposed to be doing to ensure safety for our children. They just gave them to Adam Montgomery. And we'll hear later on the 2 governors, the governor of New Hampshire and the governor of Massachusetts, do one of these. They point the finger at each other.
Not only did they grant him custody, they granted him custody after he spent a whopping total of 40 hours with Harmony from birth until 5 years old when she was given to him. 40 hours in her entire life.
And we'll hear from neighbors at their last known residence where Harmony was last residing with them. Neighbors were saying that they had their power cut off in the middle of the winter and in the summer, and they were operating a portable generator. And people were coming and going like it was a crack den or a drug house. And people were coming and going and garbage all over the place. The Manchester Police Department responded to that Guilford Street location numerous times.
Oh, yeah, for all kinds of things. Domestic violence calls, noise reports, people coming and going. And
he was there
also for the child abuse of Harmony prior to her going missing.
Horrifying. Let's play this clip, and we'll be right back with you guys. This is Adam Montgomery being the verdicts being read, guilty on all 6 charges. So let's take a listen in. This is from today.
Please be seated.
Thank you, Susan King.
We have a verdict. Everybody ready? Please rise for the jurors.
rise for the jury.
Please be seated.
The defendant remains standing, and would the foreperson please stand? Madam Foreperson, it's the court's understanding that the jury has reached a verdict in this matter.
Yes.
As to charge ID 2008742C, charging the defendant, Adam Montgomery, with the crime of armed career criminal as it relates to the shotgun, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
You say, Madam Foreperson, that the defendant is guilty?
Yes.
So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. As to charge ID 2008743C, charging the defendant, Adam Montgomery, with the crime of armed career criminal as it relates to the rifle, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
You say, Madam Foreperson, that the defendant is guilty.
Yes.
So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes.
As to charge ID 1964101C, charging the defendant with the crime of receiving stolen property as it relates to the shotgun, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
You say that the defendant is guilty, Madam Foreperson. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. And as to charge ID 1964100C, charging the defendant, Adam Montgomery, with the crime of receiving stolen property as it relates to the rifle, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
You say that the defendant is guilty, Madam Foreperson.
Yes.
So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes.
And on charge ID 1964099C, charging the defendant, Adam Montgomery, with the crime of theft by unauthorized taking as it relates to the shotgun, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
You say that the defendant is guilty, Madam Foreperson.
Yes.
So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes.
And as to charge ID 1964098C, charging the defendant, Adam Montgomery, with the crime of theft by unauthorized taking as it relates to the rifle, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
You say that he's guilty, Madam Foreperson.
Yes.
So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to have the alternates return to the jury deliberation room along with the deliberating jurors. You may now speak about the case. So yes. Prior to.
So Your Honor was getting ahead of herself there. Melanie, I'd like you to chime in and let the audience know what we just witnessed there. She was going to go forward and bring in the alternates, and the defense asked for something.
Didn't they ask for the jury to be polled? Is that where so they want the jury to be polled? We saw this also recently in the West case. I think we also saw it in the Daybell case. Either side is allowed to ask the judge to poll the jury, which means that each juror must individually stand up and say that, yes, this is my true and correct verdict. That will ensure that that is the true and correct verdict. Then that each person has to stand up and verify that, just in case somebody was wavering and then they get up and say, I mean, it rarely happens. Well, I really didn't think he was guilty, but everyone talked me into it and I wanted to go home. Rarely happens, but that's what they wanted to do in this case.
Yeah, and again, she had to be slowed down by the defense because she was going straight forward to having, the jury giving them instructions that they can now talk to the media and talk to whoever.
Right.
Again, this is a very twisted case because there's so many moving parts to it, and it spans from 2018. And I have my timeline in 3 pages here. It spans from 2018 going straight up until December 31st and going into 2022. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. That is one of my former NYPD. She retired as a sergeant. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your support. It was just so fantastic. She's a great friend of mine. Appreciate you being here and hanging out, and she just got home from surgery, so I hope you're resting up well. Amazing aunt, as I call her, aunt. I hope you're feeling better real soon. So we'll see we'll be in touch because we got to have lunch sometime soon. She's local. So Melanie, as we look at this, I mean, there's folks that are coming in and piling into the chat and asking questions, what do we got here? Why did the prosecutor decide to go after Adam Montgomery for these weapons charges? This is a big question, and I have to put you on the spot for this.
I know.
Why did they go after him for the weapons charge first and not go for the slam dunk? He stands charged, and I have the charges written down here. They're very, substantial. Second-degree murder for striking Harmony about the head repeatedly, causing her death. Falsifying evidence, abuse of a human corpse, tampering with a witness and informants, that being Kayla Montgomery. Why didn't they go for him with this first? And why did they go after these weapons charges?
Part of me thinks this was a test case to see what was going to happen with these witnesses, whether they were going to be believable to a jury. Part of me thinks that they also needed to test Kayla to make sure that she was going to get up on the stand and flip the way that she agreed to flip. So I think they also wanted to hold him on something that was, absolute right now, because he's facing 10 to 40 years on each of the armed career criminal charges. He was convicted of 2 of those, and they are not to be served concurrently, which means they must be consecutive. We don't have a date for sentencing yet, but we know that he's facing on those 2 charges alone at least 20 years.
Right. Yeah. So, and that the maximum on those 2 charges is up to 40 years. So
Yes.
we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 40 years on both of those convictions, one for the shotgun and one for the rifle.
Right.
The good thing about this is that, again, like you said, testing the waters to see if Kayla Montgomery was going to be a believable witness. I feel strongly that the information that she provided, and this is Kayla in some of her rougher days upon, I believe, her first arrest shortly after 2022, the beginning of 2022. Kayla and Adam on the left were married, but apart. He had a girlfriend that he was stopped on December 31st of 2021 going into 2022, right? That was
He was living in his car with.
Yeah.
On New Year's Eve.
The New Year's Eve party.
Happy New Year's.
Yeah. So Kayla Montgomery is the key to this case because she is now going to be the star witness, I believe, in this murder trial coming forward for the state. The district attorney is going to be using her. As we always hear this common thread of either one or the other flips. And we saw it with Thomas Valva, where Angela Polina said it was him and he said it was her. But in this, it's a little different. She's basically, I believe that the second search, not at the Guilford Street home, but the Union Street home, where we saw the FBI bringing a refrigerator out of that apartment, is the location where Adam brought Harmony's remains and discarded them. And that information probably came from Kayla Montgomery. I'm going out on a limb by saying that, but I feel strongly, my spidey sense, my detective sense. I want to play this clip because this is Kayla Montgomery testifying earlier in this trial, just a few short days ago, against her husband.
Yeah, let me go ahead.
So let's play this little piece.
Can I just jump in for 1 second? This is in New Hampshire. People in the chat are saying, what state is this? This is New Hampshire.
Yes.
Also, I just want to point out that the difference between this case and Valva is that in this case, Kayla Montgomery was given not immunity, but a community. I mean, her sentence, she's only sentenced to 18 months in prison and only for a perjury charge. Right. So, she could have been convicted of or indicted for accessory to murder and all of the other crimes that he's charged with regard to Harmony's death. So she got a real sweetheart of a deal. Yeah,
she's probably going to get time served because she's been in custody and so forth. So I got to say too that Harmony Montgomery's body, in its sense here, her remains have not been recovered, but it's unknown to us if biological evidence was recovered, DNA evidence was recovered from inside that last apartment that Kayla and Adam lived in. The
Right.
residents and the folks that live in that building and people in the community said they never saw Harmony there on Union Street. I do believe, and that's why I again, I don't speculate a lot, but I feel that, and you guys can hold me to this, I feel that that was the location that Adam Montgomery brought poor Harmony Montgomery's remains to and discarded them. That's why they were having a drain company and drain people look into the drain for any type of evidence, albeit it was years later. They cut out pieces of the floor, pieces of the wall. A lot of evidence was removed.
They confiscated the refrigerator.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's listen to Kayla testify just a little bit. This is just like seconds of a clip, but I want to put it full screen, and we'll be right back.
Here's the thing, you know, when an individual is domiciled at a location, you expect to find.
How did you come to be there for that proffer?
Because I got subpoenaed to be questioned about Harmony, and I lied to the grand jury because I was scared.
So let me back up. Had you been charged with a crime prior to meeting for that proffer?
Yes,
Prior to meeting for that proffer, you said, I think you had been charged with a crime.
yes,
Do you remember what you had been charged with?
welfare fraud
Anything else?
and 2 counts of receiving stolen property.
And do you remember being charged with perjury as well?
Yes,
So there's where the problem lies with her. And you and I both talked behind the scenes about this. How is she going to be believable to a jury, right? But she was.
Yeah.
They convicted him. She admitted on the stand that she lied to the grand jury, and she was charged with welfare fraud. That was her. This is not Harmony's mom. This is Adam's wife. She took the welfare money and food stamps and so forth that were allotted for Harmony after she was gone, and she knowingly did that.
Right.
So she definitely got, like you said, a sweetheart deal.
And she lied to the grand jury about where she was on the day that, she knew Harmony was missing. Every single person who testified in this trial, and I was really worried about this verdict, got to be honest with you. And I watched probably 90% of the testimony. Every single person that testified on behalf of the prosecution was a career criminal, had multiple arrests, had multiple run-ins with the law, had been in rehab or some sort of, they were all admitted drug users. They admitted on the stand to heroin, crack, meth. Every single one of those witnesses I found to be lacking in credibility, because anybody who knows addicts or has dealt with addicts in any capacity knows that addicts lie. They had all been convicted of crimes that involved truth-telling or not truth-telling, drug deal. It was really touch or go for me. I really did not think. I thought there was a lot of reasonable doubt in this case, and the jury came back with guilty across the board, which surprised me. I got to be honest.
And we were super happy to hear that. You sent me a joyous text, like when it made me feel like the same time when you sent me the text on Sincere and Classic, Orrin and Orson West.
Mm-hmm.
So let's let some of the folks. We're going to go back. We're going to go back a little while here to when the Attorney General's office announced the arrest of Adam Montgomery. This was a huge press conference. We saw the police chief get very emotional. The police chief in Manchester is all in. Alan Oldenburg. He actually almost cried at the podium here. This is, a press conference that was covered nationwide. I don't think it was, broadcast international, but this was definitely broadcast nationwide. This was a big deal. and I'm trying to get the date of this. I believe I have it right here. Authorities, it was 9 months ago, August 11th of 2022. So I'm glad I got that that date for you guys, because there's a lot of people in chat that are not following this case or haven't been up to speed on it. But let's take a listen to the announcement of the arrest from August of 2022 of Adam Montgomery for the murder of his daughter. I mean, let that sink in. It's horrific.
Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General John Formella, and I'm joined today by Manchester Police Chief Alan Aldenberg. We're here today to provide an update regarding the ongoing investigation into the 2019 disappearance of Harmony Montgomery. Back in January, we announced that then 5-year-old Harmony likely disappeared sometime between November 28th and December 10th of 2019. Since that announcement, members of my office, members of the Manchester Police Department, the U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI, and other law enforcement partners have been diligently continuing to work this case. In total, these agencies working together have devoted thousands of hours gathering evidence and pursuing numerous leads. All of these efforts have led us to conclude that Harmony Montgomery was murdered in Manchester in early December of 2019. At this point, while Harmony's remains have not yet been located, we do have multiple sources of investigative information, including just recently confirmed biological evidence that have led us to this difficult and tragic conclusion. As a result, today I am announcing that this is now officially a homicide investigation, and that our investigators will continue to seek justice and look into the circumstances of Harmony's murder and search for her remains. We understand that this is truly devastating news for Harmony's family, friends, and loved ones, and our hearts go out to them. This is also devastating news for the city of Manchester, for our state, and all who have followed this story. Our work now turns to getting justice for Harmony and all those who loved her. In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Manchester Police Chief Alan Aldenberg. But before I do, I just want to acknowledge the tireless work that the Manchester Police Department has put into this difficult and truly heartbreaking case. We have much work left to do, but I think everyone would join me in thanking the chief and his team for their efforts thus far. I also want to acknowledge the work of Senior Assistant Attorney General Jesse O'Neill from my office, who is here today. He's worked closely with Chief Aldenberg, the Manchester Police Department, and all of our law enforcement partners in this investigation. And there is much work left to come. Chief.
Thank you, General. Good afternoon. As the Chief of Police for the City of Manchester, I'm beyond saddened that we stand here today to announce that the disappearance of Harmony Montgomery is now officially a homicide investigation. As I stated from the beginning of this investigation and throughout, every effort has been made to bring Harmony home to her family. Our commitment to bringing Harmony home has not wavered, nor will it. Bringing Harmony home will continue to be the #1 priority of the Manchester Police Department. I want to take a moment to publicly thank the Manchester Police Department detectives and New Hampshire Attorney General's office for their steadfast commitment and dedication to this investigation. There have been many detectives assigned to this investigation, and I'm grateful to all of them. But I want to specifically recognize Captain Sean Layton, Captain Matt LaRochelle, Sergeant Jamie Cavari, who could not be here today, Detective Jack Dunleavy, Detective Scott Riley, and Detective Max Rahill, as well as Deputy U.S. Marshal Billy Tufts, who's here as well. I thank all of them for their tireless work thus far in this investigation. I am grateful for the compassion and dedication that they've given to this investigation over the past 8 months. They've experienced many ups and downs, many moments of frustration and sadness along the way. but they have remained focused and remain undeterred as they enter the next phase of this investigation. I feel it's important to recognize these true professionals, as their job is an extremely difficult one. It is even more difficult when investigating the homicide of a sweet and innocent 8-year-old girl. It is equally important for me to recognize the professionalism and commitment of Senior Assistant Attorney General Jesse O'Neill. Attorney O'Neill has been part of this investigation from day one, and he has not wavered one bit. I am personally grateful to Attorney O'Neill for the guidance and counsel he has provided me along the way. He is a consummate professional, and the state of New Hampshire should be thankful for having such an individual seeking justice for Harmony. So thank you, Jesse. It's not often that a public official takes a moment to thank the media, but I feel it's important to do so. I specifically want to extend my gratitude to WMUR and Fox Boston for continuously keeping Harmony's story at the forefront. Both outlets and many others did so with compassion and professionalism, and for that I say thank you. I know that over the past 8 months that there have been many discussions, speculation, and questions relative to where the system failed Harmony, and I myself continue to share the same. Tip line number is 603-203-6060.
The whole thing had no sound the whole time? I was hearing it. All right. I don't know, Mel. Do you hear me?
I can hear you. I did something on my screen. I touched something and something happened. It was all my fault.
So then the
You should not
sound.
have given me the power. No, at the very, very end, I think the sound went out.
All right, let me put it back on. Hold on a second. No big deal. It happens. Listen, this is part of the learning curve of granting extra powers to people.
Don't touch it now.
All right, so let me know if you guys hear it now.
Again, that number is 603-203.
Put a 1 in the chat if you hear him talking.
And downs. Many moments.
I'll wait.
Moments of frustration and sadness along the way, but they have remained focused and remained
Sound there. I see a number 1 from Donna. I see a 1 from Schmitty.
They enter the next phase.
All right. So I backed it up. So this was playing when the sound was right. Melanie, put your hands down away from the computer. She's got her hands up. I told her.
I was highlighting a comment. It was a whole thing. I accept full responsibility. I'm really sorry, guys.
All right, no problem. All right, here we go. This is only 2 more minutes.
This investigation. An 8-year-old girl. It's equally important for me to recognize the professionalism and commitment of Senior Assistant Attorney General Jesse O'Neill. Attorney O'Neill has been part of this investigation from day one, and he has not wavered one bit. I am personally grateful to Attorney O'Neill for the guidance and counsel he has provided me along the way. He is a consummate professional, and the state of New Hampshire should be thankful for having such an individual seeking justice for Harmony. So thank you, Jesse. It's not often that a public official takes a moment to thank the media, but I feel it's important to do so. I specifically want to extend my gratitude to WMUR and Fox Boston for continuously keeping Harmony's story at the forefront. Both outlets and many others did so with compassion and professionalism, and for that I say thank you. I know that over the past 8 months that there have been many discussions, speculation, and questions relative to where the system failed Harmony. And I myself continue to share the same concerns and still have many remaining questions. However, the homicide of this little girl rests with the person or persons who committed this horrific act. The Manchester Police Department will do everything within the limits of the law to ensure that the responsible person or persons for the murder of Harmony are brought to justice.
Amen.
As always, I encourage members of the public to continue to use the dedicated tip line should they have any information at all that would assist us in locating Harmony or any information that they feel is relevant to this investigation. The dedicated tip line has, the dedicated tip line number is 603-203-6060. Again, that number is 603-203-6060. As I said from the beginning, I maintain the stance that there are people out there in the community that have information about this investigation who have yet to come forward. If you are that person, pay attention to me carefully. If you are that person, I implore you to do so now and come forward. I'm not asking you to do it for me, for the people in this room, the people that have been working this investigation. Do it for this little girl who's on the screen. The time is now. Time to step up and do the right thing. Make the call to that tip line or contact the Manchester Police Department any way you see fit. Harmony is a sweet and innocent child who deserves to be brought home to her family and friends. Thank you. General?
So you heard him, very emotional. This is the police chief in Manchester, New Hampshire. Throughout this whole thing, Melanie, you don't see this often, but he showed true emotion, and he talks in other interviews about his detectives and being away from their families during the holidays and working tirelessly on this case. At this point, they were looking still for tips, and Kayla wasn't on board with them. Just your thoughts on watching a police executive get at the podium and become emotional.
I give him the utmost respect. I become emotional when I talk about this case too. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. It shows that he's human. It shows that he really cares. It shows that they are doing everything they can to try and find out what happened to her. Yeah. And I think everyone is affected by this, whether you're a parent or a child or anyone is affected by this. Nobody likes to see horrible things happen to babies. Yeah. She was 5 years old and nobody even noticed she was missing for almost 2 years. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's insane. It's almost unbelievable to even, like, how do you comprehend that? Like, there's extended family, there's aunts, there's uncles, there's, you know, I mean, listen, I get it that some families become separated or broken apart or don't speak to each other. But when you have a child this age and, you know, again, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just read. I'm going to condense this, but this is the start. This is from the start to the end. Harmony Montgomery, born June 7th, 2014 in Massachusetts. Okay, I think it was Lowell, Massachusetts. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost certain that that's what it was. She was removed from her mother, Crystal Sorey, 3 times before turning 4 years old. And finally, in July of 2018, because of neglect and drug use, she was placed in foster care. And that lasted for almost a year. Eventually, in February 2019, the Massachusetts Family Court judge granted custody of Harmony to her father, Adam Montgomery, without checking his criminal history, without doing a home evaluation, and sent her from the state of Massachusetts to that Guilford Street home.
In New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire. This happened before, again, like I said, the New Hampshire DCYF could conduct a home study of the residence where the judge in Massachusetts ordered her to go to. April 19th, April of 2019, Crystal Sorey claims the last time she saw Harmony was on Easter 2019 over FaceTime call. Last time Harmony was seen alive was by Kayla Montgomery on or about December or November. She said November or December of 2019. Kayla, Adam's wife, as we saw her on the screen there before, states that he planned to take Harmony to Lowell, Massachusetts. And when he was stopped that New Year's Eve, he told the police that Crystal Sorey came to him and picked up the Harmony Montgomery. A person close to Crystal Sorey and herself contacted DCYF in September of 2021. This is where people had major issues, Melanie.
I got a major issue too, Ron.
The time, you know, as a mother, as a father, as a parent, as a person, we say, is it reasonable? Now, Crystal Sorey, on many interviews and on a Facebook groups and stuff, has said that she was screaming and kicking. She wrote a letter to the mayor in New Hampshire. She wrote several letters. She made threats that she was going to go to the media. And then at that point is when she claims that she got she got some action. But from Easter of 2019 to 2021, I don't know. September 2021, a person close to this case and close to Crystal says that the Department of Social Services, DCYF, attempted to start locating Harmony. On the 31st of December of 2021, DCYF said they could not locate Harmony, and detectives were tasked with trying to find Adam Montgomery. They came across him and his girlfriend living in his car, Kelsey Smalls, who is now deceased. She was dead 3 months after this interaction with the police on December 31st. Adam, as I said, stated that Harmony was fine to the responding officers and that her mother, Crystal Sorey, came on November of 2019 and picked her up, which was bullshit. FBI on January 4th of 2022 joins the Manchester Police Department to search the backyard property at the home of where Harmony Montgomery last lived. That's the Guilford Street home. If you guys remember, there was drone footage from Nerdy Addict, and there was drone footage from many of the news outlets picked up that drone footage at Nerdy Addict. Thank you and credit to Nerdy and the Nerdy Bird Mafia. They did drone surveillance showing those warming blankets in the middle of the winter in New Hampshire. It's freezing cold in January. This was January 4th of 2022. They hired a company, an outside company, to warm the ground, and they dug up the back parts of the backyard. And I have footage of that, and we'll show it to you in a few minutes. That same day, Adam is charged with assault. That same day, Adam is charged and arrested for assault and interfering with custody and endangering the welfare of a child. Now, it could be coincidental, but I believe at that point, Kayla Montgomery started cooperating with police because she was questioned. On April 22nd, April of 2022, arrested again on new charges of theft. Kayla was arrested 2 days after the April of 2022 arrest of Adam Montgomery. Again, he was released on bail and then rearrested and then brought back in. It just, to me, just blows my mind. Kayla's arrested 2 days after in April of 2022 and incarcerated for 4 months. She went through a thing of rehab and so forth. She was charged with multiple charges not relating to the disappearance of Harmony, but relating to perjury and for allegedly lying to the grand jury, as we heard her say. A couple of months later, in June of 2022, the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, and local state police go to the former apartment of Adam and Kayla. Now, we do not think that Harmony Montgomery ever resided in this apartment, but I believe that, as I said earlier, that Adam Montgomery removed her body, and it's believed that she was killed in December. I believe they came up with a date of December 10th or December 7th. Mm-hmm. They searched that Union Street home, hauling out a refrigerator, pieces of sheetrock, floor, carpeting, and they were also assisted by a sewer team looking for biological evidence, as we heard the Attorney General say, of Harmony Montgomery. Authorities had a tip from a credible source, which I believe was Kayla Montgomery. They were evicted from that location, and neighbors said they never saw Harmony ever at that location. Fast forward 2 more months to August of 2022. New Hampshire Attorney General John Formella and Manchester Police Chief Alan Aldenberg say investigators believe Harmony Montgomery was killed early December of 2019. They confirmed that biological evidence and multiple sources of information led them to that conclusion. September of 2022, Kayla Montgomery was arrested on a bench warrant for failure to appear for a hearing. Her bail was revoked a few days later. And then in October 24th, Attorney General John Fromella, just a couple of short months later, announces that Adam was arrested and charged, we just watched, with the murder of Harmony Montgomery in 2019. Harmony's body has not been recovered or found. He's accused of striking her repeatedly with a fist to her head, about the head, second-degree murder, falsifying evidence, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with witnesses and informants, that being Kayla Montgomery. That's it in a nutshell, Mel. And I didn't have plans to read all of that, but I thought it was very important for the folks to hear this. This is the case in a nutshell with a lot of twists and turns. I want to talk a little bit about his girlfriend. What's your thoughts on that? She was in the car with him on that New Year's Eve. And then
They were living in the car. She was in her 20s, I think.
27.
She's found 3 months later, dead in a hotel room. And they say they suspect no foul play.
And we never heard anything about what happened to her. You know, like there was no follow-up.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Crazy. Just insane. I just was trying to pull up the clip of the news report.
Yeah. The timeline that you read was great. There was something very glaringly absent from that timeline, and that is in April of 2019, Kevin Montgomery, who is the uncle of Adam, called police and said, Harmony has a black eye. I want you to go there and find out about her black eye because Adam told me that he bashed her around the room because Adam asked Harmony to watch the infant while he was in the bathroom. He comes out of the bathroom. He says, Harmony's got her hand over the little baby's mouth so that the baby wouldn't cry because probably he's a maniac, Adam, and would have gone nuts. He tells Kevin that he bashes her around the room. Kevin reports it to the police. They go to the house. I don't know how many days later. They don't see any evidence of a black eye. They don't do anything. They go back, a couple months later. They say the kids all look happy and healthy, but there is a high probability that there could be some cause for concern in the future for these children, whatever that means. And all of this was prior to her disappearance. And
didn't he make a statement that Adam made her stand in the corner for hours and clean the toilet with her toothbrush?
Scrub the toilet with her toothbrush. She's 5 years old.
Sickening. I hope this guy rots in prison. And you know, again, our theory is that they went after him for these gun charges because they, again, wanted to test the waters, right, but also wanted to be able to, they knew that if they got these two convictions on the top charges, looking up to 40 years apiece, that's 80 years in prison if they sentence him to the max. Mm-hmm. That ensures that even if he gets a pass on this murder charge, he's not going anywhere. He's going to die in jail. So I want to play this piece. This is about the girlfriend. And I think that this is concerning because we hear all too often that there's no foul play. We heard that with Tammy Daybell, right? That she died and there was no foul play and it was just natural causes. She was buried and then her body exhumed because they fudged up. I still don't think that it's a coincidence. And I don't think that it was just a 27-year-old went to a hotel room after getting a DUI charge outside of a sober house. Mm-hmm. And she, 5 days later, after getting released from that DUI charge, she is in a hotel room dead. Adam Montgomery is not a good guy. And I don't think that he wanted her to be able to talk to the police just the way he got wind that Kayla was and how he threatened her and told her, if you talk to the police, this is going to happen to you. All right, this is only a minute and 58. Let's play this and take a listen. This is about why is her name slipping me? Smalls is her last name, right?
Yes.
Kayla, not Crystal. Yikes. All right,
Maybe we'll say it in the clip.
Let's let it play.
Kelsey.
Kelsey. Thank you.
Kelsey Smalls.
Thank you.
Appearance of a missing New Hampshire girl by the name of Harmony Montgomery has been found dead.
That is according to police in Manchester. The woman was dating Harmony's father, Adam Montgomery, and was there when police arrested him.
Anchor and investigative reporter Carrie Kavanaugh shares what she's learned.
The woman is 27-year-old Kelsey Small. Police are only saying she died March 13th in Manchester and that her death is not considered suspicious. Investigators told us December 31st they located Harmony's father, Adam Montgomery, apparently living out of a car in Manchester with his girlfriend, Kelsey Small. When police questioned Small, she told them she'd been romantically involved with Adam Montgomery for about a year and that she knew he had 3 kids with one woman and another from a woman before that. According to a police affidavit, she allegedly claimed she had no information about Harmony Montgomery, saying Adam was not in touch with any child from his prior relationship and that Adam never talked about HM, Harmony Montgomery, and she has no information on where she may be. Harmony Montgomery, of course, has been missing since the end of 2019, but her disappearance was only reported 2 years later. 25 Investigates has done extensive reporting on the missteps between child welfare agencies in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. There are multiple ongoing internal reviews unfolding right now and calls for changes as to how cases involving children in state custody growing across state lines are handled. Manchester police say they had no further interviews with Small after December 31st. And again, her death is not considered suspicious.
You know, and it's funny we didn't hear anything about that. No follow-up, nothing from her family, no outcries for answers. 27 years old, found dead. I have my notes from a year and a half ago, and all my notes here I have in question marks. Was it an overdose? But we never got an answer to that.
Can you say hot shot?
Yeah, there you go. Hot shot to take somebody out is an easy order that can be given from prison. And it wouldn't.
Or, no, hot shot is a lethal injection of drugs that will kill someone.
Right.
So, you know, is it that the police also, I mean, that's another term, you know, another definition, but isn't it true? Isn't it true, detective, that the police don't always take deaths of known drug addicts seriously?
Yeah.
A known drug addict dies of an overdose, and it's just there's no suspicion, there's no foul play.
Right. But what I say to myself is,
Right.
is you've got an ongoing investigation of a missing child, right? That we as detectives are zeroing in on the father and his wife and this woman. She was found with her. You would think that just a little bit of extra probing would go on. And you know what? We don't know. Maybe they did dot their I's and cross their T's. Maybe the medical examiner examined her and said, there's no foul play. I asked Barbara Butcher about it, and she was just like, I'd like to see the reports. We've never seen them. They've never been made public. Here's an interesting interview with Kayla Montgomery's mom outside of their home where Kayla was residing with her. Because remember, when Adam was taken into custody, it was a big deal. But Kayla and him were separated for a year. They were still married, but he was living and hanging out with this now deceased woman, right? But it's interesting to hear about what Christina Lubin, Kayla Montgomery's mom, said about Adam Montgomery. So let's take a listen to this, and then we'll be right back with you folks. This is Kayla Montgomery's mom on Adam. There's a bunch of reporters outside her home. The audio is not great, but just take a listen.
And she has made her choices, and that's all. It's just help. And she has made her choices, and that's all I can say. I'm just asking you, just for the children's sake, I do pray for Harmony, and I did have something come to me today for the police that I thought may help, which I did tell the police I'm not going to give that out yet because I don't want to hinder it in any way. Just please.
When did you see Harmony?
I knew it was in the wintertime. I wasn't exactly sure when. And when I spoke with my daughter, she was telling me it was a day after Thanksgiving. Okay.
That last year in 2020 or 2021?
No, that was in 2019.
And did you ever ask your daughter where she was after that? That you never saw her again?
Well, she told me that because they came here the end of December during the holidays, and they were here briefly. I asked her, I'm like, well, I expected Harmony to do them, and they said no. And I know they've been kind of living on the streets and in a car kind of thing. And well, she didn't say no. She said she's with her mother, and I didn't question it because I don't know. I didn't know until all the news, the history of the family. And Adam, for the first couple of years, was some sweet guy, and he's not. He is pure evil. He is pure evil. So,
did you guys hear that in the back of the room? She said it twice. He is pure evil. He comes off as a sweet guy, but he's pure evil. So I backed it up a little bit.
he's not. He is pure evil. Because I don't know. I didn't know until all the news, the history of the family. And Adam, for the first couple of years, was some sweet guy, and he's not. He is pure evil. He is pure evil. So
That
I hope
says it all.
I really, really hope the information that came to me today that can help in the search for Harmony. And that's really where my prayers are now, because my grandchildren will be with me, so I'm not going to be worried about them. And just please respect the privacy.
Yeah.
This is so scary for
Do you think
children.
Harmony's do you think Harmony's still alive?
I hope and pray she's still alive. But
All right. I'm not going to let the rest of that play. I wanted to play that for you guys to hear. Kayla's mom, she was kind of nonchalant about them living on the street. Did you hear how she said that? Oh, they were living on the street. Didn't really seem like, I mean, this is a multi-dwelling home, but just didn't seem like I don't know. I would never be good with that if my daughter was living on the street,
No. But these were, and I want to, somebody had said in the chat before, that's what I was doing when I screwed up the feed. There was a comment in the chat earlier about addicts, and not all of us are the same. The comment said, and I can't find it now. Some of us are able to sober up and go to rehab and, become sober. And I am not saying that all addicts are bad. I am not saying that all addicts are criminals. What I am saying specifically to this case is that every single person who testified in the case testified that they were an addict and they were using drugs heavily at the time that these gun charges occurred.
Right.
So that makes them a little less reliable in their testimony. And Ed says, and I'm going to agree with Ed on this, that eyewitness testimony is already one of the least reliable forms of testimony. So when you have eyewitness testimony from people who are admitting that they were up for 3 days because they had been smoking crack, and then they're testifying about what happened after they've been up for 3 days, after they've been smoking crack the whole time, I think their testimony is a little bit less reliable than perhaps someone who wasn't smoking crack for 3 days. It's just heartbreaking.
It's a fact. Listen, I have many years of patrol experience, and I worked in East New York and Brownsville here in New York. And for those of you who are outside of New York, look up East New York and Brownsville, New York, Brooklyn. Major crack hub, heroin, cocaine, every kind of drug under the sun available in those communities. I worked high-risk patrol there for almost a decade. The priorities of a heroin addict or drug addict is not what we think priorities are, the common regular person. And it's not that we're putting them down. It's just that they put getting the drug and getting that fix over and above parenting, personal hygiene, food, water, everything. They will do whatever they have to do. And I've seen it firsthand to get the drug. And it's not something that could just be corrected by yelling and screaming at them and calling them, bad names. And that's not anything that we were doing here. We're just calling it as it is. And the bottom line is that, these are people who are making horrible decisions, and who pays the price for it? Little people, little children like Harmony Montgomery, and people who can't fend for themselves. If there was an elderly family around them, they would be casualties of war. They would be gone as well. So Harmony, as I said, it started in the womb with Crystal Sorey. She was a drug user, a bona fide drug user, documented. And she had her child removed from her because of that. She admitted it. It's on paper. So it started right in the beginning.
And Harmony was born with special needs. She was blind. She was born blind in one eye. We don't know what her other special needs were. I'm going to guess that she was probably, born with also an addiction, because when your mother when you're in the womb and your mother is an addict and is doing heavy drugs like that, that's a major, you're born a crack baby, maybe. I don't know what her other special needs were, but it was
right,
heartbreaking.
Heather Wagoneer puts a comment in, and I didn't even fully read it, but I'm going to read it out loud. Very true. And while addicts will lie and steal to get their fix or whatnot, but as a recovering alcoholic addict, I can also tell you that they don't want to bring light to themselves. Therefore, listen, again, I agree. A lot of people want to just try to hide it or try to, shield it from the people they love, but the love for their family and people becomes secondary to the addiction, and that's the problem. And it goes for alcohol, drugs, and anything that is addictive. So been around it a lot. I've had my wife's friends, her best friend, her brother was suffering from addiction and broke into my wife's home when she was living with her parents and wiped out my wife's family, took everything for the drug to get a fix. So this is stuff that happens, and again, Harmony Montgomery was a victim of this, and also a victim of a failsafe. The DCYF system failed her, hands down. I have a whole playlist on this. The governor, and they're all pointing fingers and saying, we're not to blame. This one did it. That one.
It's important. We didn't even point this out yet, that Harmony had a half brother who had been adopted by a lovely couple who also wanted to adopt Harmony.
Yes.
And they petitioned the court, I believe, to adopt Harmony. And the judge in Massachusetts was of the opinion that it was better off for Harmony to be with her biological father instead of this loving adoptive family that wanted her to be with her half brother.
So sad. Yeah. And she would have been safe and sound. And that was coming from their own words. He was a newscaster out of DC. And I had it up on the screen, but I don't have it available to me. But what's funny is that Governor Chris Sununu and Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker both had this little spat with each other. There was a big, strongly worded letter put out there about the failures. New Hampshire put it out.
Right.
It was done by the New Hampshire governor.
Yeah.
And then Massachusetts, it was like a pissing match.
There was no follow-up.
Yeah, it was
there was no follow-up between the states, and that's part of the problem here, is that there's something called the compact, which is the ICPC, which is something that now all 50 states are signatories to, and it has to do with interstate adoption. And at the time that he was given custody of Harmony, New Hampshire was not a signatory to this.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
And
dial up. Yeah. Just horrible. I mean, so many
dropped everywhere.
We could do a whole show on this just to cover this. This is the search at the Guilford Street home where Harmony was last living. This is the drone shot courtesy of Nerdy Addict. And you can see them here digging dirt up. But it took them a whole 24 hours to warm up the ground and to now start digging. And they didn't go in there and dig randomly, folks. That was either information given to them by Kayla or by somebody. We'll hear it at trial, what led them here into this digging. And this went on for a long time. A lot of man hours, a lot of, men and women who took time in the middle of the winter. This was January 4th, I believe. So just horrific. My heart breaks for anybody who has to endure what poor Harmony endured, and we don't even know the whole, Adam. I watched some of the interrogations and of him when he was taken into custody, and he was just stone faced. Just I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to you. I want an attorney. Melanie, you're highlighting some stuff. I love it.
I did it right.
Yeah, take it over.
Yeah, Karen. So yeah, Karen says wasn't part of this during COVID lockdowns. Yeah, so that's another part of the problem and the finger pointing and the blame is that Little Harmony now we find was killed in December of 2019. What happened in March of 2020? The entire country was locked down. So I am sure that we would call them CPS. I forget what they call them there. They were not doing home visits during COVID, probably, right? They were not. Nobody was in the office. Everyone was working from home. How many other cases are we gonna see like this that sort of fell through the cracks during COVID because there was no follow up? So absolutely, and I think that is some of the problem here. But again, she was killed before COVID, so. Yeah. I think that's why nobody found out sooner. However, she could have been FaceTiming with her mother. And, I am very angry that her mother did not ask for proof of life for 18 months after she spoke to her in Easter of 2019. And somebody said in the chat that her parental rights were terminated. She didn't have any right to contact her. I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. You could be right. But you can ask for proof of life, even if I don't know that all contact was cut off.
No, because she was doing the FaceTime and they were having.
Right.
It's just that she got blocked by Adam after a period of time, according to her. The trial for the murder is supposed to commence in November of 2023. So in November of this year. Anika, thank you for that question. Let's play the governor's pissing match, and then we're going to wrap it up because we're over an hour already. We always go over an hour, Melanie. We can't help it because
we started a little bit late, though. So in our defense.
Yes. All right, let's let this play, and we'll be right back with you guys. I know the volume's not
for
on.
Harmony Montgomery. Plenty to get to today. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu defending his scathing letter against Massachusetts released yesterday. Governor Charlie Baker responding to that letter. New details about Harmony's father's criminal past and an exclusive interview with Harmony's uncle sharing how he feels about what's happened and the case. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Shannon Malaire, and as you can see, a lot to get to tonight. Let's jump right into it. We have team coverage for you tonight at 6, beginning with NBC 10's Catherine Underwood, who's live for us in Manchester, New Hampshire. Catherine.
Well, Shannon, what we learned today is that in addition to his violent and extensive criminal history in Massachusetts, Adam Montgomery spent most of his life in and out of the court system here in New Hampshire. And now Governor Chris Sununu is asking Massachusetts, how did a man like this end up in custody of a child?
I'm angry. I think everybody's angry. I think that's why there's so much around this case, that poor little girl.
7-year-old Harmony Montgomery was last seen in 2019, but authorities only started looking for her late last year when her mother told them she couldn't find her.
We're leaving no stone unturned.
In the search for answers, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu sent this scathing letter to the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court Justice, asking why a judge granted sole custody to Harmony's father before New Hampshire conducted the home study that Massachusetts DCF requested.
Before we could even do the home study, a judge had placed Harmony in the care of her father, who at the time, frankly, was a monstrous individual.
31-year-old Adam Montgomery had been charged with shooting someone in the head in Massachusetts and was arrested nearly 20 different times in New Hampshire when he was given custody.
That's the travesty of this whole thing. This is sickening on so many levels. There's his rap sheet. There's an overview. He shot somebody in the head. And a judge in Massachusetts just made a decision. I'm going to let the rest of this play, and then Melanie and I are going to come back, and we are mad as hell about this. This is sickening.
Did nobody have this paperwork?
The lack of communication by state to state is the problem. Is Massachusetts wasn't communicating with New Hampshire. New Hampshire didn't communicate with Massachusetts. Nobody knew that this was going on until it was too late. And that's what's fucked up about it. I apologize for the cursing, but this is just sickening. All right, let's let this play. It's just a couple more minutes.
of his daughter.
Even do the home study, a judge had placed Harmony in the care of her father, who at the time, frankly, was a monstrous individual.
31-year-old Adam Montgomery had been charged with shooting someone in the head in Massachusetts and was arrested nearly 20 different times in New Hampshire when he was given custody of his daughter.
I'm angry that the system didn't have the right checks and balances in it. I'm angry that the states weren't working together as they should with a compact that should have been in place. All of those pieces we're all angry at.
I totally get where Governor Sununu is coming from, and we are cooperating to the fullest extent possible that we can. I felt his pain in that letter. I did.
While an independent review of Harmony's case gets underway
He felt his pain in the letter.
Rewind to for 1 second, right to the top of that board. Okay, now look at what it says at the top of that board, where he is. Of course, he's posed himself in front of children's drawings, and it says right at the top, "Where all children thrive." Is that a photo op or what?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Wow. Good eye, Melanie. Let's let the rest of this play through, and then we're going to wrap up.
Compact that should have been in place. All of those pieces we're all angry at.
I totally get where Governor Sununu is coming from, and we are cooperating to the fullest extent possible that we can. I felt his pain in that letter. I did.
While an independent review of Harmony's case gets underway in Massachusetts, we asked Governor Sununu if he thinks New Hampshire authorities bear some of the blame.
Clearly, the system failed at certain areas. It's not about administering blame on one side or the other. It's about everyone coming together, getting the information, making sure we can bring Harmony home safe, and making sure that we can have a system where this doesn't happen again.
Now, there is an internal review underway in the state of New Hampshire. Meanwhile,
Nothing's changed, just so everybody knows. I checked just today to see if anything was changed. The only thing that they did was they lowered the caseload in DCYF, but nobody was reprimanded for this. No, that judge is still on the bench, still hearing cases in Massachusetts. Nobody has been removed, and nothing has changed. Let's let the rest of this play because there's an interview here with someone I want you guys to hear.
the reward for any information in this case is now up to $150,000. Reporting live in Manchester, New Hampshire, Catherine Underwood, NBC 10 Boston.
Catherine, thank you. And now to our exclusive interview with Harmony Montgomery's uncle. NBC 10's Michael Rosenfield has that part of the story live for us in Lawrence tonight. Michael.
Shannon, family members have a lot of questions about the judge's decision. State officials here in Massachusetts and New Hampshire want to know a whole lot more as well.
Massachusetts dropped the ball with handing the baby over to a career criminal.
Tim Flanagan has been wondering for nearly 3 years why his niece Harmony was ever given to her father.
To see one state, blaming another state, it's kind of sad.
Tim is the brother of Harmony's mom.
When a state steps in to be the arbiter of truth and safety, there is no oops. You can't just mess up. These are kids' lives that we're putting at stake.
Tim is talking about the decision in 2019 made by a judge in Lawrence to give legal custody of Harmony to her father, Adam Montgomery, who was living in Manchester, a move that has put Massachusetts and New Hampshire at odds with each other.
Like everybody else, I feel a tremendous amount of pain associated with what happened to Harmony.
Court records pertaining to juvenile cases are confidential, so we don't know what went into the judge's decision. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court confirms it is investigating. So is the Massachusetts Office of the Child Advocate.
I think we should let the Office of the Child Advocate do her job. She's a very talented, experienced person who will have access to information that's not available to many of the rest of us, and she has no dog in this hunt. This is 100% an independent review.
My daughter was failed by everybody.
Harmony's mom wants answers as well, but most importantly, wants her daughter found.
I just wanted her to have a better life than I did. And when she comes home, I'll make sure I give her that.
Just a total joke. Massachusetts governor saying that he's going to have someone from his it's not in his office, but these are his people.
Have your people call my people.
Yeah. How is it going to be an independent? If you hire an outside company that has nothing to do with the state, then I could say that would be an independent. She's saying she doesn't have a dog in the fight. I'm telling you, don't get me going, because when I covered that, this is in my saved playlist from my previous lives. I have over 40 or so videos on Harmony Montgomery. It was F-bombs everywhere on that live when I covered this, and I have so much more to play. But at an hour and 15, I want to turn to the chat, if you don't mind. I know we've been doing it sporadically, but let's say hello to Joey Brooklyn, who's one of our great moderators. He helps keep the chat moving smoothly and everybody respectful. Emily 53, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. Yes. Eleanor, you say it well. What a smiling POS. Yeah, that smirk. What was your take on that, Mel? The governor, state of Massachusetts.
I found it gross, as you like to say.
It was gross.
It was gross. It was an inappropriate facial expression that I found to be smarmy and inappropriate, and I didn't sense any remorse in what he was saying. It was kind of like, blame the system.
I want to ask you about Harmony's biological mom, Crystal Sorey. What your mom? I mean, there's many moms in the chat. We have over 85% women watching us. I like to hear from the ladies in the chat. You guys let me know what you feel or what your thoughts are on Crystal Sorey. And I'm not asking people to completely judge her and dog her, but I want to get a woman's perspective on this, Melanie. And I have to ask you a little bit about this. I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm doing it.
Go ahead. What do you want to know?
If
that was my child and I hadn't heard from her let's say she had a regular scheduled call every week. If I hadn't heard from my kid for 1 week, I would get in my car and I would drive there and I would bang on the door to find out where my child was. I find it inexcusable that this went on for 18 months. And then also she lied about how long it had been since she had spoken to her, because she was probably embarrassed. But, had this been reported earlier, perhaps Harmony would still be alive. So we can all blame the system, but we really should start with the parents. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
Julie, the system came in afterwards. Everybody dropped the ball, but
yeah. I agree. I mean, I don't have, listen, I have empathy and I have feelings for anybody that loses a child, whether you're doing the right thing or not. I do feel sorry for her, but at the same time, like I said, this starts with who was responsible for creating this girl's life. And Crystal Sorey and Adam Montgomery were responsible for creating her, right? It takes two to make a baby, right? Yeah. So they both dropped the ball, and one of them murdered her, allegedly, innocent until proven guilty. But I don't have any, and I don't feel bad for her, because, like you said, you screaming from the rooftops after the fact,
right?
Where the fuck were you in those 18 months or whatever time period or time frame that was? Like you said, if you can't drive there, if you don't have a license, get your friend to drive you there. Get a cab, get in an Uber, do whatever, get on a Greyhound bus. I don't give a shit how far it is. If that's your flesh and blood, go and check on them. Things don't smell kosher. Go and make sure everything's all right.
Because the guy's a violent convicted felon. Okay? He shot a guy in the face during a drug deal. He stabbed another guy in the leg and pushed him in front of a moving car. That was one of his long laundry list of other charges, going back to when he was 16 years old until, present day.
Yeah.
How do you your child is in the possession, basically, of a violent, addicted felon?
Right. Yeah. Here's Rebecca saying she was suffering the disease of addiction. But that doesn't stop you from taking a phone and calling 911 or getting a friend who's not suffering from addiction to go over and make a stink out in front of the house.
Grandmother? Where were the aunts and uncles? Like this guy who we just saw an interview from. Where was? There's other family members too involved, right? Where are the grandparents? Where are the aunts and uncles?
Yeah, I said it in the beginning of this. Where are the extended family? But it's just amazing that when these things happen, when someone comes up missing, and whether it's a child or an adult, all of a sudden people are screaming and people are shouting, right? But while it's happening, and this was an extended period of time, it's an unreasonable amount of time. If you're not getting FaceTimes or any communications, how can you wait even a month?
Right.
Even a month or two. But that's not what we're talking about here. Let's look at the chat. Dr. Pamela is in, and she says the ball was never in the air.
Yeah.
Cherry Hill says exactly, DutyRon. Latonia says, I would go ballistic if I was supposed to talk to my child and there was no response. Your child is supposed to be your everything, no matter what.
No response for 18 months. 18 months, you guys.
Yeah. 18 months is just ridiculous.
Yesterday would have been her 9th birthday.
Yeah. Study tips. Thank you for being a channel member. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't care. A lot of people look the other way because they don't want to stick their nose into parenting. It's difficult to tell somebody how to be a parent, even when you're a family member. But there comes a time where you got to just say, screw this. I got to say something. Listen, I'm going to make an example. And this has nothing to do with a child, but it does have something to do with a child. My neighbor next door to me, a child was crying. A 17-year-old daughter crying in the house for a long time, for like 20 minutes. And I said to myself, I can't just sit here and listen to her cry and nobody's home. I'm knocking on the door. Of course I got my sidearm with me. I'm a retired cop, but still I'm banging on the door. Is everything okay? Her family lives across the street. I went to them and I made them go over. Everything was fine. She was just having a moment. An argument with her mother. The mother left. The father was, I didn't know where he was. So what I'm saying is these are my neighbors, and I still stuck my nose in there because something didn't smell right. But if I didn't see someone's daughter or a little kid on my block for a period of time, I'm going to that person and be like, hey, where's so-and-so? Where is little Johnny? Where is she? Where's Harmony?
And it's really sad to say this, but I think you're in the minority. I think you're in the minority. So many people don't want to get involved. So many people do not want to have anything to do with anybody else's business. Right. You care. That's the difference. That's exactly what I was going to say. You care. That's the difference.
Yeah. Again, the victim here is Harmony Montgomery. She was failed on all levels, from her parents to the extended family to the people who are responsible for her well-being. Law enforcement failed her, and I hate to, obviously I hate to say it, but it's true. They failed her. They responded numerous times to that Guilford Street home, and nothing was done. But we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what transpired. DCYF, shame on you in the state of New Hampshire. It's a long documented failures of that DCYF, and I have a video here. I don't have time. On the next live, I'm going to play it, where Governor Sununu says our DCYF, our system is in good order. It's better than it was in the past. We've done marvelous work with it, and it made me physically ill to hear him say that. This was all while this was going on. He was interviewed in his office, and he said, our system is great. It's operating perfectly.
In 2018, they were supposed to do a home study. Had they done a home study, they would have found that the conditions were deplorable. We've seen video of that house. It was deplorable.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2018. We're not talking about 1998, okay? We have the technology to find out this guy's rap sheet from another state. How that was not in the file during the hearing of custody. And why did he want custody of her in the first place? He'd spent 40 hours with her entire life.
Yeah.
Insane. It was a possession for him. He needs to win.
Insanity. All right, guys and girls, we're going to wrap it up. I want to say thank you to the replay viewers, the channel members, the moderators, and everybody who is subscribed here. If you're not following me on all things social media, one word, DutyRon. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Oh my God. Me and Ed Wallace are on TikTok. You're on it too, I think. You're on some of my TikToks,
I
Melanie.
mean, yes, I think so. I
Follow Melanie Little. I'll link it in the description on Instagram. She's got a great Instagram page. And I think that's your only social that you are hanging out with, doing the podcasting with, right?
yeah, I mean, I have a channel on YouTube, but it's, it's just a playlist of stuff I've done with you and, police off the cuff, but who knows what I'll do.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know. You thinking of
there's
starting?
a playlist on there.
Melanie, you thinking of starting your own channel?
I don't know. I have to find something else to talk about.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Schmitty
says, "Don't swing on poles, Ron." I would break them, so I'm not going to do that. Again, we want to thank everybody for joining us. There's a lot of work to be done here. There's a lot of advocating that needs to be done for our most vulnerable children. Our children, it sounds corny, but are our future. And if they're not protected, and if there's no fail-safe in place for our children to be rescued from monsters like Adam Montgomery and the likes of the whole bunch of them that were around him, including Kayla Montgomery. She's no better. She's cooperating, and it's important. We need her for the successful prosecution of Adam Montgomery. But Kayla Montgomery is no better than Adam, because she remained silent when knowing there was something fugazi going on. She knew that little girl disappeared, and Adam was saying this one picked her up and that one picked her up, and that never happened. The stories were all twisted. Again, Melanie, I want to thank you because you deliver your messages in layman's terms to our audience, and the audience loves you here on Crime Time with DutyRon and also on Police Off the Cuff. You take this time out of you're a mother of 5, you're running a household, you have your own business and things that you got going on and things that you do during the course of the day. You take the time to look up these cases, you do your research. I want to personally thank you on behalf of all of the community here on Crime Time with DutyRon for your efforts that you put forward. It really, really is greatly appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. It's very important to me. So I'm honored to shine a light on some of this stuff, because we need to. Yeah. We need to do better for our children and all of the children. And hopefully this is going to shine a light on some of the horrible things that are wrong with our system and how we are failing our children.
Yeah. Scott, thank you. Thank you for everybody in the chat. I would love to be able to highlight everybody in the chat, but it's hard to do that. Pete Pranzo's here, Sharon Creates, Debbie McDermott, Follow the Green in Your Own Wood. I know that she strongly advocates for a lot of this stuff. Norma, I mean, we could just go right down the line. Sweet One, anybody that we didn't get to, Princess Mitch, Cammie, you guys are just awesome. And, I want to just say too that, we're not going to stop with covering these cases. YouTube likes to demonetize and do all this stuff, but I don't care. We need to be the mouthpiece for the folks and the young children who cannot be here to speak about what happened to them, and to cover these cases is so important to me as a human being, as a father, as a retired professional from the police department, and just as a good human being. So thank you guys for joining. As I always like to end these and all the shows, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially Harmony Montgomery. She needs our strength, our prayers, and we need to highlight this case. So share it out, put it onto your social media, and we'll see you on the next one. Good night from New York. On behalf of Melanie and myself, good night. Peace, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Take care. And Melanie, I want to make sure I hit end. Remember that last time? Stand by for a message from the cop team. That's Kara, that's Ed's dog, Oscar, my old pup, and Popeye. He's over here whistling. He's whistling Dixie, but I have my mic set so you guys can't hear it. I'll see you guys. Good night.
Good night.